My dear congregants at As Yeshurun Herzliya Synagogue, I want to wish each and every one of you a Shana Tova. It should be a year of good health and happiness. This past year, the Jewish world lost a very great soul. On November 7th, we mourned the loss of one of the greatest spokesmen for Judaism, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. It was a Shabbat, and according to Jewish tradition, the souls of the righteous are taken on Shabbat. What made him great was his ability to transform Judaism from a religion of particularism to a religion of universalism. And even though he was an Orthodox Jew, he was able to rise above the labels and to reach out to all Jews. And in fact, his message reverberated not only with Jews, but with non-Jews as well. He was able to show that the Torah is not just about rules that are particular to the Jewish people, but about ideas that are universal to all people. And this year, I would like to dedicate the high holidays in memory of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. And today, I would like to share with all of you what I believe is his greatest teaching of all. One that is vital if society is to continue. I want to begin with an excerpt from Rabbi Sacks' latest book entitled Morality. And in the book, he argues that society has moved away from the we to the I. We're less concerned about the welfare of others. We are less tolerant towards the ideas of others. We've become a more self-centered society. And this has led to the breakdown of community, and it has caused a deep strain in marriage and in our relationships. And at the start of his book, he quotes a fascinating study. The study was carried out by Robert Putnam, an American political scientist. And his research comes from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. And he documents how society has shifted from a we society to an I society. And to prove it, he did a very simple test: the use of language. Between the years 1900 and 2008, he charted how many times the word we and the word I appeared in all English and American published books. And he came to an astounding finding. From the year 1900 to 1965, the predominant word that was used in books is the word we. And in fact, during those years, the word I experienced a drop. But from the year 1965, the two words became reversed. And the word I begins to see a very marked increase. And the result, he argued, reflects a trend in society, a movement from we to I. Our society, claimed Rabbi Sacks, is plagued by the worship of self. The word self is everywhere: self-help, self-realization, self-esteem. There's even a new way to take a picture. It's called the selfie. Do you remember the days when if you wanted to take a picture in public, you stopped someone in the street and you asked them to take a picture of you? There was human contact. There was a hello. There was a new person. And now all we have is the lonely selfie. It's no wonder that the most sold phone in the world is called the iPhone and the iPad. We are a society that is connected and yet so unconnected. So connected that we can see what's happening halfway across the world, in Afghanistan, in Israel, in Florida, when a condo collapses. And yet we don't even know who our next door neighbor is. We are so connected and yet in so many ways unconnected. There was a time where we communicated face to face And today we send texts and emails. Rabbi Sachs, in his book Morality, makes the following conclusion, and I quote, "Society cannot be sustained by market economics and liberal democratic politics alone. Society needs a third element, morality, a concern for the welfare of others, an active commitment to justice and compassion, a willingness to ask not just what is good for me, but what is good for all of us together. It is about us and not me, about we and not I. If we focus on the I and lose the we, if we act on self-interest without a commitment of the common good, if we focus on self-esteem and lose our care for others, we will lose much more. We will lose society itself." End of quote. In short, if we don't return to a we society, we are doomed. This was Rabbi Sachs' single most important message. And this message, I believe, is the cornerstone of Judaism. We all remember Rabbi Akiva's great statements. We're all familiar with a great dispute that took place between two Torah giants, Ben Azai on one hand and the great Rabbi Akiva on the other. And their dispute was trying to figure out what is the most important verse in the Torah. Ben Azai claimed it was the verse that stated that every human being is created in the image of God. And Rabbi Akiva opined it was love your neighbor as you love yourself, ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. These are two extraordinary statements, revolutionary in fact. Many have pitted them one against the other. They have claimed that Ben Azai and Rabbi Akiva disagree. Ben Azai claims that the love of God is the primary command, whereas Rabbi Akiva claims that the love of other is the primary command. Let me suggest there is no dispute. The two opinions do not argue with each other. The two opinions complement each other. Rabbi Akiva and Ben Azai agree. Rabbi Akiva claims the primary command of the Torah is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. While Ben Azai qualifies his statement and claims the reason for that is because every human being is created in the image of God. Loving another person happens when we see that they are also created in the image of God. But what does loving someone else as you love yourself mean? Is that even humanly possible? How does one even fulfill such a difficult task? The great Italian commentary, Seforno, answers with one word. The only way to love another person as you love yourself is through empathy. By trying to put yourself in that person's shoes, by trying to imagine what is that person feeling? What is that person thinking? What is that person going through? By trying to make yourself feel and think just like they do. And that is no easy task. Consider a 15-year-old teenager trying to imagine what it's like being an 85-year-old person. Consider a person who has full use of their legs all of their life trying to imagine what it's like to be a cripple. Consider a wealthy person who has never needed anything in their life, imagining what it's like to know where is your next meal coming from. Indeed, love your neighbor as yourself is not only the most important command, it's the hardest command. It forces you to become someone you are not. It forces you to be completely different from anything you have known up to now. It forces you to be other-oriented. For this reason, it's such an important Jewish ideal, and according to Rabbi Akiva, the most important ideal. There's a very beautiful Hasidic story of a man who enters into a forest on a journey. But the deeper that he gets into the forest, the more he realizes that he's lost. And he tries one path after another, only to hit a dead end at each one. But after many futile hours, he meets another person and he's overjoyed. His companion will surely lead him out of the forest. And so he runs to him and he asks him, how do I get out of the forest? But his friend answers, I'm so sorry. I'm just as lost as you are. I too do not know how to get out of the forest. He adds, have no fear. Let us compare the paths each of us has taken. This way we will know which paths lead to a dead end, and together we will try new paths and find the way out of the forest. The moral of the story is very clear. We are stronger together. We are stronger when we help each other, and this is the Jewish way. You know, one of my favorite music bands to this very day is a very famous band known as Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, CSNY. And I love them to this very day, and one of my favorite songs is a very famous song known as Hopelessly Helping. And I love the chorus, and it goes like this. They are one person, they are two alone, they are three together, they are four or each other. And that is what Rabbi Akiva was trying to communicate, that we must always be for each other. That is the Jewish way. Dear friends, it's a time we replace the word self with the word other. Instead of self-help, we should say other help. Instead of self-esteem, we should say other esteem. And it's time for us to start thinking about others more. The past 18 months have been difficult. COVID-19, unfortunately, continues to ravage us, and I pray that it will be over soon. We can do our part by getting vaccinated and keeping the rules. I pray that time will smooth the edges of lonely nights, that we will no longer feel those tense moments in a supermarket, not knowing if the person who just passed by you buying tomatoes will put you in the hospital. That we can walk in the street and see someone approaching and we won't have to cross to the other side to avoid them. I pray we will no longer have to cling to case counts. And when they increase, our heart drops. I pray for the day that we will be able to shake hands again without any guilt. COVID has isolated us, but there is a silver lining and there is one great outcome. We learned to care for the well-being of others. We became other-oriented. We agreed to wear masks, even though they are the greatest nudniks ever invented. We did it out of a concern for others and to keep others safe. COVID taught us to give up personal freedoms. That is a religious ideal, and that we take for granted, that these ideals and these freedoms that we take for granted, and we did it in order to keep others safe. That's why the overwhelming majority of rabbis across the world not only recommended that people get vaccinated, they claimed it was a religious obligation. COVID taught us we are for or each other. And this, dear friends, is the Jewish way. When we pray together as a community. We pray for others, not just for ourselves. When we pray, we do it in the plural. We don't just say, listen to me, God, listen to me. We say, God, listen to us. We don't just say, I have sinned. We say, we have sinned. As Jews, we share our most joyous moments together as a community, and we share our moments of sorrow surrounded by our community. We are a religion of we. So for this new year, let's make it the year of other. A year we help others more. A year we spend less time in front of screens and more time with family and friends. A year where we get involved in our synagogue and in our community, where we pray together and we study together. Let's make this year the year of other. Shana Tova.